I'll discuss some of the most important features in the Render Scene dialog. You can open it right here. I've already set up the pixel size that I want to render here from the Print Size wizard. But you can also quickly set values using this drop-down, and there's a list of common photographic and film sizes. There's also these preset buttons that you can click, and these are great for making test renderings at small sizes. You can also right-click on one of these buttons to set the preset values manually. And you can do this if you are planning to use the size often in the future. I'll set up the value 2550 by 1650, which is what I got from the Print Size wizard. I'll say OK. And then I can click this button and it will put those values into the width and height. Down here we have various options that can be toggled on and off. And down here is very important because it allows you to save files. Click this button and you'll open up this Render Output File dialog. Here you need to choose the type of image that you want to render. And you can see all the formats that are supported in this drop-down. Choose the TIFF format if you plan to print the image out. This format is suitable for printing because it's a lossless format, meaning it preserves all of the fidelity of the image for the printer. Click on the Setup button and you can set up the options within the TIFF format. If you choose another format, say JPEG, the setup dialog will be different because the JPEG format is different. This format is a lossy format, meaning there's always a trade-off between quality and file size. JPEG images aren't really suitable for printing. They're best displayed on the internet. If you need to render an image that has an alpha channel, you can use TIFF or Targa. If you want to render an image for the internet, you can use JPEG or PNG. PNG is a lossless format, and it's supported by all modern browsers. Other files of note here are RLA and RPF. These formats support additional channels that aren't available in most of the other formats. I'll choose RPF and I'll say Test. I'll say Save, and I'm presented with the RPF format options. I can select optional channels if I want to and say OK. Now that is entered here into this long path text box, and Save File is checked. Now I don't necessarily have to have the rendered frame window appear. I could uncheck this and click Render, and the rendering would happen in the background. I wouldn't see it on the screen. However, in this case, I want to do the opposite. I want to uncheck Save File and check Rendered Frame Window. In this way, nothing will be saved. And I'll click Render and I'll be able to see the progress on the screen. Now, a couple of things happened. I see the rendered frame window and I see this rendering floater. I'm going to pause the rendering for a moment and just show you what we have here. This floater has tons of detail about what's happening with the rendering. It has the amount of physical and virtual memory that's being used, the number of objects, faces, and lights in the scene, how many of the lights are shadow mapped or ray traced, and lots of other information. You can use this information to help you optimize your scene if the rendering is taking a lot of time. Up here you can see how much time this rendering is taking, and if this was animated you would see the whole progress of the entire animation up here. Notice that the rendered frame window says 1 to 4. That means that there are actually 4 times as many pixels being rendered as we can actually see in this little dialog box right now. We're looking at the red, green, and blue channels. You can turn off channels and view individual channels if you want. You can also look at the alpha channel, which displays the environment here through these open doors. You can look at the image in monochrome, or you can delete the image here. Once this is done, I can copy the image to the clipboard, clone the window, or save it. Over here, we see those additional channels that were available in this image format. I can look at Z-depth, material ID, or object ID. Now look over here, lens effects is being calculated right now. I can look at Z-depth, which shows the depth into the picture plane. I can look at material ID or object ID, which isn't set here. So there's a lot of options within the rendered frame window. If you go this route, the rendering will be lost unless you save it explicitly from the rendered frame window.